the Gospel of Judas exists. This ancient text carries the name of the figure most Christians recognize as the ultimate betrayer. Yet this document presents him in a radically different light. Found in an Egyptian cave in 1978, the manuscript remained largely unknown until 2004 when a Swiss researcher presented his findings in Paris. During those intervening years, the codex passed through the hands of multiple antiquities dealers who tried forcing it open. The document had hardened and deformed over time. These merchants applied pressure, froze and thawed the pages repeatedly, destroying at least 10 to 15% of the text forever. The Gospel of Judas appeared within a collection alongside 3 other texts already known from different manuscripts: the letter of Peter to Philip, the first apocalypse of James, and a work called the Book of Allegories. All were written in Coptic, a late form of Egyptian language, though originally composed in Greek. Scholars date the manuscript itself to the 3rd or 4th century. A 2nd century Christian writer named Irenaeus already referenced and condemned this gospel, claiming it circulated among groups he labeled Gnostics. If the discovered document matches what Irenaeus knew, the original composition dates to around 150 CE or earlier. The content diverges sharply from expectations. Many assume this gospel functions like Matthew, Mark, Luke, or John, simply told from Judas' perspective, perhaps explaining or justifying his betrayal of Jesus. The reality proves stranger. The Gospel of Judas doesn't claim Judas as its author. Judas doesn't narrate the text. He appears as the primary character alongside Jesus, the only apostle named in the entire work. He emerges under entirely different illumination. According to this text, Judas stood superior to the other disciples. He alone truly understood Jesus' identity and recognized the genuine God. Jesus maintained a special relationship with him, making secret revelations shared with no one else. The manuscript opens with these words: the secret word of revelation that Jesus spoke to Judas Iscariot over 8 days, 3 days before celebrating Passover. Everything occurs within this time frame. The text contains nothing about Jesus' birth, public preaching, miracles, crucifixion, or resurrection. What matters are the secret discourses Jesus delivered to Judas days before the betrayal, though this text reinterprets that betrayal entirely. The focus falls on what Jesus privately revealed about his origin, identity, and mission. These revelations begin after a curious scene. Jesus found his disciples sitting together, acting according to piety, giving thanks over bread. He laughed. The disciples asked why he mocked their thanksgiving. Jesus replied he wasn't laughing at them personally. They weren't acting from their own will. Their God would receive praise through their actions. The disciples responded by calling him the Son of God. Jesus asked how they knew him, declaring that no generation among their people would truly know him. This enigmatic response carries specific meaning within the text's framework. When Jesus saw the disciples thanking God for bread, he considered their action foolish. By giving thanks, they praised the Creator God. From this text's perspective, the Creator God isn't the true God. Jesus distinguished between your God and his God. This distinction becomes explicit when the apostles grew irritated and began blaspheming after hearing this. Jesus told them their God dwelling within them and his powers became angry along with their souls. He challenged whoever was strong enough to bring forth the perfect human and stand before his face. If you're digging into these alternative scriptures and want to explore more hidden texts that reshape early Christian history, please subscribe. We're uncovering documents most people never encounter, and your support helps us bring these fascinating perspectives to light. Now, let's get back to what happened with Judas. No one could meet Jesus' challenge except Judas Iscariot, the most improbable disciple. Judas stood before Jesus and declared he knew Jesus' identity and origin. Jesus came from the immortal Aeon of Barbello and from the one who sent him, whose name Judas wasn't worthy to pronounce. Seeing that Judas spoke elevated truths, Jesus told him to separate from the other disciples. Jesus would reveal the mysteries of the kingdom to him alone. From this point, Jesus began discourses about immortal eons, the origin of all things, and how this world wasn't created by the true God but by two vastly inferior and imperfect entities. The Gospel of Judas presents its cosmogony through Jesus referring to the true God as the great invisible Spirit. No angel's eye ever saw this being, no mind's thought ever comprehended it, and it was never called by any name. This great invisible Spirit inhabits the infinite aeon that existed before everything. Aeon in this context designates a divine dimension or collective of divine beings. The meaning varies across Gnostic texts, but this captures the essence. At some point, the great invisible Spirit produced a luminous cloud. From this cloud, he called forth a first helper who would initiate creation, not just of our world but of more ancient, pure, and perfect realities. This first helper carries the name self-originated or the one who generated himself, also called the God of Light. From this being, 4 other beings emerged, followed by successive generations. A figure equivalent to Eleleth in other Gnostic texts appeared, producing 12 angels. Among them was an angel who exhaled fire from his face, his appearance covered in blood. This terrifying, sinister creature received the name Nebro, meaning rebel. The text notes others knew him as Yaldabaoth, a name recurring throughout Gnostic literature. From that same cloud emerged other angels, including one called Saklas. Saklas declared, "Let us make man in our image according to our likeness." He molded the first humans, Adam and Eve, imitating the image of these angels, these late, imperfect and inferior emanations from the true God. According to this perspective, inferior beings created humanity and the tangible, immediate world we inhabit. Our reality differs fundamentally from the dimension of the true God. Jesus' reality aligns with the true God's realm. This is what Judas recognized at the text's beginning when he identified Jesus as coming from Barbello's immortal aeon and from the one whose name he wasn't worthy to pronounce. Barbello, another recurring name in Gnostic texts, likely corresponds to what this document calls the first luminous cloud from which the self-originated emerged. The being who sent Jesus, whose name remains unspoken, is the great invisible Spirit known by no name. The situation positions people as lost within an inferior reality. Jesus' mission involves rescuing people from this inferior realm, at least certain people, returning them to the initial essence, the first, unique, perfect being who is the true God, Jesus' actual Father. Saklas, whom people mistakenly worship as the true God, functions merely as an inferior creator entity. Judas possessed a specific mission within this scheme. According to the text, he would perform a sacrifice superior to what other apostles offered. Near the end of the Gospel, Jesus tells Judas, "Truly I tell you, Judas, those who offer sacrifices to Saklas," then a gap appears in the text, "everything that is evil. But you will surpass them all, for you will sacrifice the human that carries me." In other words, delivering Jesus for execution, or more precisely delivering the human carrying Jesus, the material aspect rather than the properly divine aspect of Jesus for execution, constitutes an appropriate sacrifice aligned with the true God's will. This sacrifice initiates Jesus' salvific work and defeats the powers ruling the inferior world, our world. This sacrifice by Judas, this betrayal Jesus explains as actually an agreeable sacrifice, contrasts with the apostles' piety practices, with their thanksgiving when breaking bread. According to the Gospel of Judas, such practices only please Saklas, the world's creator, the producer of bread and other basic material things. When Judas understood this, Jesus told him, "See, everything has been revealed to you. Lift up your eyes and see the cloud and the light within it and the stars surrounding it. The star that leads the way is your star." Judas lifted his eyes and saw the luminous cloud, and he entered it. Those on the ground heard a voice coming from the cloud saying, then gaps appear in the text, the great generation, gap, image, gap. Unfortunately, the text contains numerous gaps in this section, likely resulting from well-intentioned but disastrous efforts by antiquities dealers who handled the manuscript before it reached specialized professionals. Even in complete sections, deciphering what's actually being said proves difficult. In this final part where the text says he entered the luminous cloud, who is he? Is it Judas in a spiritual sense, as if welcomed by the true God? Certainly not literal or corporeal, not an abduction. Judas subsequently goes to the priests, delivers Jesus, and completes the betrayal/sacrifice that was his mission. The passage could also refer to Jesus. This interpretation makes more sense. The divine Jesus returned to his place of origin, leaving only his non-divine aspect, the human carrying Jesus, as the text phrases it, to be sacrificed on the cross. The entire text resists straightforward interpretation for multiple reasons. This document was created for a community based on secrets, on particular revelations not meant to be known or understood by everyone. Some readers of this gospel possessed certain keys helping them understand what the author truly meant behind the text's appearances, behind its images, metaphors, and allegories. Community members who produced and read this text accessed information helping them decode, read between the lines, and fill gaps we can no longer bridge today. Regardless, this text clearly represents a composition from some ancient Gnostic group, possibly what historians call Sethians, a Christian group with distinctive doctrines. The name Sethian derives from Seth, referencing the doctrine present in texts from this group dividing humanity into different races or types. Among them stands the descendants of Seth, the archetype or spiritual model associated with Adam's third son named Seth, Cain, Abel, and Seth. But the Seth of the Sethians doesn't specifically mean the carnal human Adam's third son, but rather his model, his archetype on a purer plane. Only this Seth lineage, according to Sethians, would be completely, fully saved. A favorable destiny exists for other figures called psychics, but the totally favorable destiny, the return to the great invisible spirit, remains restricted to this great generation, the perfect generation. Various titles designate this group of people identified with Seth's descendants. This theme appears in texts from other groups also labeled Gnostic, including the Valentinians. The division of these Gnostic groups and what Gnostics exactly were remains a topic of significant debate among historians today. Other Gnostic texts share another theme appearing in the Gospel of Judas, revelations made to only one or a few disciples separated from the main group. This probably marked direct opposition to other Christian groups, especially the group we now call Orthodox Christianity. The concept of orthodoxy, meaning correct doctrine, gets claimed by every group. The Christianity we recognize today, the Christianity of the Gospels now in the Bible, represented a group Gnostics probably opposed. Gnostics therefore claimed the apostles understood nothing of what Jesus said and did. Since Orthodox Christians follow apostolic doctrine, they also know nothing about what they think they know. They don't know what they're talking about. Who truly possesses knowledge, who holds the genuine revelation from Jesus, the gnosis, are those following teachings given secretly to figures like Mary Magdalene, Judas, and other characters who protagonist other apocryphal, extra-canonical Gospels not in the Bible. Additionally, the theme of complex origin from a perfect being unfolding into a series of emanations increasingly distant from perfection characterizes Gnostic texts extensively. This cosmogony appears most completely perhaps in the secret Gospel of John, the Apocryphon of John. This cosmogony/cosmology, this way of understanding the world's origin and how the world functions, converses directly with Platonic or Neoplatonic philosophical currents that were extremely strong during this period. We're almost done here, and if these alternative perspectives on early Christianity are opening new understanding for you, I'd really appreciate it if you'd subscribe. We're planning deep dives into the secret Gospel of John, the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, and a dedicated exploration of Gnosticism itself. Please help us continue this work by subscribing. It means more than you know. Alright, back to wrapping this up. The Gospel of Judas challenges everything mainstream Christianity teaches about betrayal, redemption, and the nature of God himself. Where traditional texts paint Judas as the villain consumed by greed or demonic possession, this document elevates him to the status of enlightened disciple, the only one who truly comprehended Jesus' divine mission. The reversal is complete and intentional. The apostles who founded the church, who wrote the canonical Gospels, who established Christian orthodoxy, appear in this text as blind followers worshiping a false god. Their piety becomes foolishness. Their thanksgiving becomes mockery. Their devotion serves an inferior creator rather than the true invisible spirit dwelling beyond all creation. This theological framework dismantles the foundations of conventional Christianity. The material world isn't the good creation of a loving God but the flawed product of rebellious angels. Saklas and Nebro, not the Father Jesus spoke of in canonical Gospels, shaped physical reality. Flesh itself becomes a prison rather than a temple. Salvation doesn't involve bodily resurrection but escape from corporeality entirely. The cross isn't the ultimate demonstration of divine love but the necessary shedding of Jesus' human shell, allowing his true divine essence to return home. Judas' betrayal transforms from history's greatest act of treachery into the supreme sacrifice, the pivotal moment enabling Jesus to complete his mission of liberation. The implications ripple through every aspect of faith. If the Creator God isn't the true God, then the Hebrew Bible's entire narrative collapses. The law given at Sinai becomes a tool of spiritual oppression rather than divine guidance. The prophets spoke for Saklas, not for the transcendent invisible spirit. The promised Messiah rescuing Israel from political enemies becomes irrelevant. What matters is escaping the physical cosmos altogether, ascending through the eons back to the primordial perfection before emanations and angels and material creation corrupted everything. The Gospel of Judas reveals how early Christianity fractured into wildly divergent interpretations of Jesus' identity and purpose. These weren't minor theological disagreements about ritual details or church governance. These were fundamental contradictions about the nature of reality itself. Gnostics and Orthodox Christians inhabited different conceptual universes despite both claiming Jesus as their foundation. One group saw matter as inherently corruptible, the other as redeemable. One group pursued secret knowledge granted to spiritual elites, the other embraced public proclamation accessible to all. One group rejected the Creator God of Genesis, the other worshipped him as Jesus' Father. The manuscript's damaged condition adds another layer of mystery. Those missing percentages destroyed by careless merchants might have contained clarifications resolving interpretive puzzles. The gaps appearing at crucial moments, particularly during the climactic revelation to Judas, leave us guessing at meanings that would have been transparent to the original community. We're reading a secret text without possessing the decoder key its authors assumed readers would have. Every interpretation remains provisional, every translation debatable, every theological conclusion tentative. Yet even incomplete and enigmatic, the Gospel of Judas accomplishes something profound. It forces recognition that early Christianity was never monolithic. The version that eventually became orthodoxy, that produced the New Testament canon, that established creeds and church structures, emerged victorious from intense ideological combat. Alternative visions existed, attracted devoted followers, produced sophisticated theological systems, and considered themselves the authentic inheritors of Jesus' teaching. These groups weren't merely confused or heretical in retrospect. They were competing interpretations fighting for legitimacy in Christianity's formative centuries. The text's rediscovery after 16 centuries of obscurity reminds us how contingent historical memory becomes. What survives determines what we know. What gets preserved shapes our understanding of the past. The Gospel of Judas existed in multiple copies circulating through early Christian communities. Church fathers knew about it, wrote against it, condemned those who valued it. Then it vanished, mentioned only in polemical attacks, its actual content unknown until a single damaged codex emerged from an Egyptian cave. How many other texts disappeared completely, leaving no trace even in hostile references? How many perspectives on Jesus' identity and mission were erased so thoroughly we don't even know they existed? The damaged manuscript forces us to confront the fragility of historical knowledge and the provisional nature of all reconstructions attempting to capture what ancient people believed. We piece together fragments, fill gaps with educated guesses, acknowledge uncertainties while constructing narratives that inevitably reflect our own assumptions and biases. The Gospel of Judas exists as a material artifact, ink on papyrus, words in Coptic translated from Greek, sentences conveying ideas formulated by people dead for 18 centuries. Yet accessing what those people actually meant, what convictions drove them to write and preserve this text, what experiences convinced them they possessed secret knowledge surpassing orthodox teaching, remains extraordinarily difficult despite having the document itself in hand.